Hey everybody, Mike Osman with Taylor Guitars, and I'm hanging out at Long & McQuaid today. And I wanted to take a second so that everybody could kind of come together and understand a little bit more about V-Class bracing, why it exists, what is it actually doing, and how do I know I actually have a guitar that has V-Class bracing. So let's talk about V-Class from the beginning. 150 years ago, there was a great guitar company named Martin Guitars. They make exceptional instruments, and they came up with the X-Brace, which is effectively a acoustic top that has a big X on the back, give or take. And it is a great way to hold a guitar that maximizes its volume, keeps it from exploding, and it has been the benchmark bracing pattern for every acoustic manufacturer for the most part since then. That was something that traditional manufacturers have continued with, but knowing Taylor Guitars and our history of innovation, we've always been looking for something that's a little bit different. How do we improve? How do we take things to the next level? Now, you'll notice a lot of guitar companies have tried to maximize and articulate changes within a bracing pattern by doing certain things to the architecture inside, like scallop bracing, or thin finish on the outside, or forward shift the overall bracing pattern. And what we're trying to achieve as a guitar community is squeezing every last little ounce of tone out of a guitar. But at some point, you're still driving down a cul-de-sac street. You're going to get to the end of the opportunity with the bracing pattern that you already have. So, regardless of all of that, it's still a fantastic bracing pattern, and it offers all kinds of guitars a very, very good opportunity to do what they do best, and that's make noise compared to their wood pairings and body shape, okay? Now, bring in Andy Powers, who's our master guitar designer. He's also part owner of Taylor Guitars. And he devised this idea that he needs a way to independently attack volume and sustain. Because for 150 years of X-Brace, there's always been this inherent challenge and fight between how do I get more volume and more sustain, because I typically have to give up one for the other. With acoustic guitars, that means if I want more volume, I simply hit my guitar harder. If I want more sustain, I play it a little softer and I let the strings have more movement and they'll go and ring a little longer. Well, we have to relate volume with flexibility. Think about a banjo. It has a drum head underneath those strings. You hit it, has this incredibly loud sound, and then it's over. On the flip side, we talk about sustain. Pick any of your favorite solid body electric guitars, Les Pauls, Telecasters. They're blocks of wood with a neck respectively that's solid wood. And this string, once it goes in motion, has this incredible desire to sustain, but I need amplification to hear it. All right, so how do I get them to do both? We realized if we could separate them in two and control them independently, that would be the ideal situation. Hence, V-Class was born. V-Class engages this rigidity or this stiffness from the headstock all the way down to the tip of the instrument. All right, it gives this kind of this center point that a guitar can then rotate around. Subsequently, it gives you the wings of the guitar as their own almost amplifiers. So you can have flexibility on the sides and stiffness up the center. When we think about the X-Brace guitar when it moves is almost rolling around like the ocean, kind of on an XYZ plane. So it's not really strong in any one spot, and as you work your way up and down the fingerboard, the tension spots kind of are always in motion. With the V-Class bracing, it allows what we call order, right? So think about this. Here's a cool visual. X-Brace, take a bunch of rocks, throw them into a pond. I get splashing. I get notes that are moving all over the place. You'll notice that when you try to take your tuner, and that tuner is struggling a little bit sometimes to find that exact note that you're trying to get to. Second, the V-Class, when you throw those rocks in, it's almost like you're getting one ripple at a time. You're getting notes that are coming off in harmonic order. That allowed us to actually achieve something we weren't actually set out to do. We went for volume and sustain. We ended up getting something that we refer to as in-tuneness. Most of you would call that intonation. We refer to intonation as compensation. What's my string height? What's my nut slot situation doing? What gauge of strings am I using? How humidified is my instrument? What's the angle of the neck coming into the body? And that is how we set up our guitars. When we made V-Class happen, we didn't change anything about the setup of our Taylor guitars. What we did, though, is we found a way for a guitar to play completely and more in tune with itself, which allows you to have much more pure and articulate notes But now I'm in tune with my piano or my cello or my trumpet, and that's something that hasn't been done before. So when you notice that you tune your guitar up and you strum your E chord, and you go, oh, that's perfect. And then you strum your D chord and you hear a string that sounds a little sharp or a little flat, and you're like, how is that? Why? I just tuned this. Now you tune your D and now your G is out a little bit. All of a sudden you've got an in-tuneness problem that you're chasing. With a V-class system, the guitar is going to play in tune with itself all the way up the neck. And that's a feat that hasn't been conquered until now. So, last bit, how do I know I have a guitar that has V-class inside, under the top? There's two things. First, the nut will be black. It's a graphite nut. So when you're looking at guitars at retail, or you're looking at guitars on longandmcquade.com, you'll see a Taylor that has the black nut on it. You'll know it has V-class. Supplemental to that, Bob Taylor will tell you the respect of the build goes to the builder. So we have a new label inside our V-class instruments. It showcases Andy Powers. His authentic signature is inside, with respect to Bob Taylor of 45 years, as a recessed watermark in the background. This is kind of that passing of the torch as Andy is accelerating us towards new sonic ideas, new body shapes, all through the lens of the V-class architecture. If you want to experience more about how they feel, how in tune they are, how much sustain and volume they have, I would really invite you to go to Long McQuade stores that are local to you, or go on to longandmcquade.com and check them out. But in the end, you'll find that it is something that is unbelievably more authentic when it comes to the purity of what an acoustic guitar is trying to do. Okay? So I hope you enjoy that V-class. Keep playing guitars. Thanks a lot.